The first time I noticed it, I almost let it go. That's the honest truth. I came home on a Saturday evening after being out longer than I planned, turned onto my street, and saw more cars than usual parked along the curb. At first, I figured somebody nearby was having people over. Normal enough. Then I got closer and realized one of those cars wasn't just near my driveway. It was halfway across it. Not fully blocking me, not in a way that would make a dramatic photo for social media, just far enough over that I had to stop, back up, and work my truck in at an angle to get past it. The kind of move that says one thing very clearly: whoever parked there didn't care whether I could get in or not. I remember sitting there for a second with the engine running, staring at that car, trying to decide whether I was more annoyed than the situation deserved. Because that's how these things start, not with some huge, outrageous act. It's usually with something small, inconvenient, and easy to dismiss if you're tired enough. And I was tired. I almost parked on the street and dealt with it later. But then, I looked at the front of the house next door and saw string lights, folding tables, a whole crowd of people moving around in the yard like it was a catered event. That's when I knocked on their door. The couple next door had only moved in a few months earlier. It's younger than me, probably early 30s. Polished in that way some people are when they arrive in a neighborhood already convinced they're upgrading it. New landscaping, fresh paint, patio furniture that looked like it came from a showroom instead of a warehouse, and a habit of treating every casual conversation like they were unveiling a business plan. Friendly enough on the surface, but there was always something a little performative about them. Like they weren't just living next door, or curating it. That night, the husband answered the door with music and conversation spilling out behind him. I told him one of the guest cars was hanging into my driveway and asked if he could have it moved. He leaned past me, looked at the street for maybe half a second, and said it was just for the evening. Not sorry. Not surprised, just mildly inconvenienced that I had brought it up. I said I still needed access to my driveway. Then he smiled. That tight little smile people use when they think they're being reasonable. While telling you your problem isn't important, and said we're packed tonight, it'll only be a few hours. Stood there another second, then told him no, it needed to be moved now. To his credit, he did call out for someone and have the car moved. But the whole exchange left a bad taste in my mouth, not because of the parking itself, because of the assumption behind it. It's like my driveway had quietly become negotiable if they had enough guests. After that, the parties kept happening. At first, it was every couple of weekends, then every weekend, then not just weekends. Random. Thursday nights, Sunday afternoons, the occasional Friday that turned into a full traffic problem by 6 o'clock. Cars lined both sides of the street. People I'd never seen before walking back and forth in nice clothes carrying coolers. Food trays, folding chairs, bags of ice, birthday decorations, all the signs that this wasn't just friends dropping by. This was organized, planned, repeated, and every time it happened. The overflow crept closer to my property. First, it was the curb in front of my house, then the edge of my mailbox. Then cars sitting a little too close to the mouth of my driveway. Then one night I came home and found two vehicles angled half into my drive, like whoever parked them figured they'd only be there a minute and that made it fine. I knocked again. This time the wife answered. She was polite in that bright, over-rehearsed way people are when they've already decided your complaint is unreasonable. She told me parking was tight and most of their guests were from out of the area. As if distance somehow turned my driveway into a community resource. I told her I didn't care where they were from. My driveway wasn't part of their event plan. She apologized in words, but not in tone. The cars got moved, but the feeling didn't. A week later, learned what was really going on. I was out front trimming back a shrub near the porch when a car I didn't recognize slowed down in front of the house next door. The driver rolled down his window and asked, "Is this the party parking house?" At first, I thought I misheard him. So I said, "What?" He looked confused and pointed at his phone. Then he said, the listing said driveway parking was extra. Street parking was first come, first served. That sentence hit me so strangely. I actually laughed once because my brain needed a second to catch up. I asked him what listing he was talking about. He turned his phone around and showed me a screenshot. It was some local event post, maybe, from social media or one of those neighborhood marketplace pages. Advertising party, space rental for birthdays, showers, small gatherings, whatever. Backyard setup included. Tables available. Decorative lighting. Extra fee for reserved parking. Reserved parking. I asked him where exactly he thought that parking was. He pointed, not at their driveway, at the side area near mine. That was the moment everything snapped into focus. They weren't just hosting too many guests. They were renting out gatherings. Somewhere in that little arrangement, they had decided the edge of my property and the access around my driveway counted as part of the convenience package. I went inside, sat down, and just stared at the wall for a minute. It wasn't even the money that bothered me, though. That part was insulting too. It was the casual expansion. It's the way they had quietly turned my space into part of their business model without ever asking. Every blocked entrance, every awkward parking angle, every just for a few hours excuse suddenly looked different. It wasn't random. It was planned overflow. That evening, I walked next door and knocked harder than usual. The husband answered again, smile already fading the second he saw my face. I asked him whether they were renting out parties. He hesitated just long enough to confirm it before he spoke. Then he said they were just hosting small private events. I asked if they were charging for parking. He tried to laugh that off like I had the wrong idea, so I told him exactly what one of his guests had shown me. I even repeated the phrase back to him, reserved parking extra. That changed his expression. Not guilty, annoyed. He said the listing language might have been a little broad, but they weren't telling anyone to use my driveway. They were just managing demand. Like he was talking about stadium traffic instead of people trespassing around a residential property line. I told him that multiple cars had already blocked or partly blocked my drive on different nights, and that from that point on, none of it was going to slide anymore. Not 1 inch, not one guest, not one excuse. He crossed his arms and said they couldn't control what every visitor did. I told him funny because they seemed pretty comfortable making money off it. That landed, you could see it in his face. But instead of backing off, he shifted into that same smooth, dismissive mode I had started recognizing. He said if I had an issue with street parking, I should call the city. Like the whole thing was an abstract municipal concern. It's not something he had created in his own yard. So that's what I started doing, not dramatically. Just consistently. The next time one of their guests blocked my driveway, even slightly, I took a photo before knocking. Then I had it moved. At the time after that, I documented the plate and called the non-emergency line when nobody came to the door quickly enough. Then I started keeping a folder, dates, times, pictures, screenshots of the party posts when I could find them. Cars lined up outside, guests walking in with decorations, events set up in the backyard. Not because I enjoy that kind of thing, I don't. But once I realized they were monetizing the inconvenience, I knew casual complaints were useless. The pattern got worse before it got better. Word must have spread that their place was good for cheap events because the traffic increased. Some weekends looked like someone had dropped a restaurant parking lot into the middle of a quiet residential block. A woman in heels once tried to leave her SUV across the lower half of my driveway and told me she'd only be 2 hours. A guy unloading coolers asked if my side yard was part of overflow. Someone else parked so close to my mailbox I couldn't even reach it from the curb. Every time I corrected it. Every time they acted like I was making things difficult on purpose. Then one Friday evening, I came home to find traffic cones. Not city cones. Not anything official. Bright orange cones placed near the edge of the curb in a way that funneled cars toward one side of the street and left open space directly across the mouth of my driveway. Their guests had basically set up amateur event parking control on the street like they were running valet for a wedding tent. I got out, walked over, and moved the cones onto their lawn. 5 minutes later, the wife came over asking why I had touched their property. I told her because they had placed it in a way that interfered with access to mine. She said they were just trying to keep parking organized. I said then, organize your own guests somewhere that doesn't involve my driveway. She stared at me for a second and said, it's not like we're using your actual driveway. That was the sentence. Because in her mind, anything short of fully parking a car on my concrete meant I should stop complaining. The mouth of the driveway? The turning radius? the ability to get in and out easily. The simple fact that I didn't want random strangers hovering around my entrance all evening. A pair